Good day, my name is Melanie Kutsia. I'm a conveyancing partner at the STBB Cape Town office, and I will be chatting to you today about the City of Cape Town's Municipal Planning Bylaws. This is a topic which always comes up in the transfer of property. Every single property which is transferred somewhere along the line would have had building permission if there is a structure or a building built on the property. Unfortunately for us, and I suppose all other municipalities in South Africa for that matter, no building plans are required to be delivered by a seller to a buyer in the sale of a property in order for that property to transfer ownership. Neither the Deeds Office, which is the government institution that processes the title ownership transfer, nor the municipality, in as far as the rates clearances required are concerned in respect of the transfer of the property, requests a copy of the building plans. And this is quite an important aspect when property is sold. Every single property where there is a structure built on has a zoning attached to it. And depending on the zoning, the use zone that's attached to that property, the structure would have had to be built or extended, if that is the intention of the purchaser, within the regulations of the local municipality, which in our case is called the City of Cape Town. We try and train the general public, as well as our property practitioners with whom we do business, in respect of the necessity to negotiate the building plans into the agreements of sale in order to contractually oblige our sellers to deliver and present copies of building plans to purchasers as part of the sale. In the event that a sale is concluded without the necessity for the seller to deliver or present building plans, the purchaser will get ownership and title of that property, but perhaps without building plans having been approved or being available. There is therefore quite a risk in purchasing property without including that provision in the offer to purchase or the agreement of sale. We are phoned quite often by purchasers after they've taken title and transfer of the property, especially when they wish to extend or build on to the existing structure that they've bought. Mostly they've bought under the understanding or assumption that the building plans would have been approved, just to discover upon their presentation of their extending plans or their amendment plans that no set of original building plans exist. It is therefore important for all property practitioners, as well as the sellers and the buyers in property investment transactions, to be aware of the very basic rules attached to the different use zones at the City of Cape Town. The most prevalent use zone that we deal with is the normal residential zoning, which is called single residential, and for short we refer to it as SR1. The City of Cape Town's Municipal Planning Bylaw is available on the City of Cape Town's website, and it sets out very nicely all the restrictions and the rules which apply to your single residentially zoned property, from height to building line restrictions, to setbacks from common boundary and street boundaries, to habitation factor, floor factor, and more importantly, with single residentially zoned properties, whether a second dwelling or a third dwelling is allowed on the property. Often the questions surrounding and regarding flatlets on properties which are zoned SR1 come up in conversation, and we as conveyancers at STBB are phoned often by property practitioners asking the questions: is a flatlet allowed with a separate kitchen and a separate bathroom? If the flatlet's already been converted, what is it that the seller needs to do in order for that flatlet to comply with the City of Cape Town's Municipal Planning Bylaws? If there is a second flatlet Is that allowed? And if so, what are the regulations and the rules relating the second flatlet? If there are 2 flatlets and the main house, is a domestic quarters allowed? So these are the types of questions that we need to answer upfront and before the offer is fully concluded, in order for us to draw addendums or conditions which then become part of that sale. As a rule, and in terms of the City of Cape Town's municipal planning bylaws, a main dwelling is allowed on a property which is zoned SR1, naturally. In 2017, the city's laws or bylaws changed to allow for a second dwelling within the parameters and subject to the rules to be built or changed or used without getting a special permission from council. And just very recently, on the 3rd of February, a further amendment of the city's bylaws now allow for a third dwelling on your property if it's zoned single residential SR1. It is important for people who do have 2 flatlets perhaps with their main building, and in that instance now being allowed that without special permission, not to exceed or not comply with the other basic rules. And these are height, width, habitation factor, etc., etc. So one has to be very careful when one converts another outbuilding or a storeroom into a first or second flatlet, now being allowed to do so without a departure or a rezoning, in order to ensure that the building plans and the basic building rules are still complied with. Since the onset of Airbnb, obviously the necessity for the City of Cape Town to get with the program has also arisen, and on the 3rd of February, together with the allowance of a third dwelling, specific rules regarding Airbnb has finally been published. In order for people who own property that is zoned single residential SR1 to run an Airbnb operation, there are specific rules which have to be complied with. One of the main rules being that that particular owner may now convert an outbuilding into a third dwelling, as I said before, and utilize that second dwelling or that flatlet as an Airbnb operation to generate additional income, as long as the occupant is someone that comes in and out for no longer than 30 days in one particular period of time. Should the occupant of the Airbnb operation be in residence of that flatlet for longer than 30 days, then we've got to start looking at whether that flatlet is perhaps not used as a bed and breakfast or as a guest house, in which case other rules apply. So these are very important changes at the City of Cape Town's planning division. Obviously, we are able to tell that our City of Cape Town is encouraging densification. And the reason for that is clear. The City of Cape Town has not got a lot of property left to develop. And the City of Cape Town's rules and regulations therefore allow owners to build higher up and wider depending on the size of your property, if your property is owned single residential SR1, without the necessity to rezone it, as would be required if a developer bought the property and built a block of flats 10 stories high. This is very good news since it assists people with generating additional income under specific rules, and also to assist people who cannot find reasonable accommodation. So it's possible for property owners to optimally use their properties without having to jump really through too much of hoops. I think it's also important for me to mention the fact that the building plans often is a hindrance or a dispute, or it becomes a disputed issue in the sale of property. I started off by saying building plans are required when property ownership is transferred. However, we are still able to transfer properties without those building plans. So our suggestion is always for the seller, in conjunction with his property practitioner, to appoint the services or to appoint an architect to walk through the property and to advise how difficult or easy it would be to get a basic set of building plans drafted, since there may not be a set of building plans available at the City of Cape Town. If we find that it is going to be really difficult having the building plans issued as part of the negotiation with the purchaser, then that is a fact that needs to be disclosed. The purchaser may decide not to purchase the property under the circumstances or the conditions. Or the purchaser may decide to buy the property, but subject to certain conditions. The purchaser in that instance may even decide to offer less for the property, since the existence of building plans should be an intrinsic part of the value and ownership. The reason why building plans has become such a big issue in the property cycle in South Africa, not just the city of Cape Town, is because properties have been sold and transferred for years and years and years without the necessity to have those building plans passed on from owner to owner. And the assumption incorrectly exists that one is able to obtain a copy of building plans from the local municipality, in our case the city of Cape Town. The city of Cape Town does not have records of all building plans that have ever been issued for any of the properties within its jurisdiction. Building plans are issued for the benefit and on application of an owner. And if the owner gets permission to build or extend, it's only the owner who will have a copy of those plans. If that owner passes transfer to a buyer and doesn't hand those building plans over as part of the sale, those building plans will then go lost and will be misplaced. And we will not be able to find those building plans 3 or 4 owners down the line. So this is a very important issue that has to be dealt with. And even though we can still transfer the properties at the deeds office without building plans, it's not advisable. Sooner rather than later, our deeds office and or our municipality and city of Cape Town will start requiring these building plans when properties are sold. And we don't want any issues with our transactions at that point in time. There are other use zones in the city of Cape Town within the jurisdiction with different rules than your single residential SR1. There's a whole long list. We get general residential, GR, 1 to 10. We get industrial, we get commercial. If anyone wants to convert their property into commercial building, they need to do either a rezoning or a departure. The rules for that is available and can be found within the City of Cape Town Municipal Planning Bylaws. The last thing I wish to share with you in this short summary of the zoning rules and the municipalities' regulations which apply is agricultural property. With agricultural property and the way in which our government wish to retain the essence and the character of our farm operations or farming operations within South Africa, every municipality has been mandated not to allow the attrition of that agricultural activity or possibilities on our farmland, whether it's small farms or big farms, that's irrelevant. So in order to develop agriculturally zoned property, one would require the permission, national permission, at our National Department of Human Settlements. One would apply for that permission through your local municipality. If the municipality supports the application, it will be the municipality that submits that application to Human Settlements in Pretoria. Without that permission, one cannot develop agricultural land. So how does one establish what your property is zoned as? Quite an important thing, because that would be the starting point to see whether the building is built within the building lines and to establish what all the rules are. One is able to go onto the City of Cape Town's website. There is a zoning map viewer that is free of charge, and if one clicks on that tab on the City of Cape Town's website, one can type in the address, any of the addresses that you want to check the zoning of, and you can zoom in, you can get a Google photograph that you can swivel, and more importantly, you can find out what that property is zoned as. And as I said before, from single residential SR1 to agriculturally zoned properties, specific rules apply, and it is important that one at least knows the zoning, the use zone, what your property is zoned as. And that is the easiest way to find out what it is. Thank you for listening. And if you would like more information on the topic, please visit stbb.co.za.